TIFU by spending $220 on an unnecessary Uber ride trying to make my flight on time. Drop a like and be sure to follow for more. So TIFU by spending $220 on an unnecessary Uber ride trying to make my flight on time. For context, I live in North Seattle. On a good day, it can take anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to get from my house to the airport, SeaTac, through TSA and to the gate. SeaTac is notorious for insane lines at times, and today is the first day of summer break for UW and most of the colleges. I always leave extra early just in case anyway. I had a 10:12 a.m. flight to Cincinnati for a work conference this week, and I woke up early enough to attempt taking the light rail to the airport. It takes almost twice as long on rail, but an Uber or even taxi from my apartment is no cheaper than $90. With tip, it's over $100. Everything was going smoothly. I even got a seat on the rail. I was going to make it in plenty of time for my C-Spot Saver appointment at 8:15. I'm 2 stops away from the airport when it suddenly occurred to me, I forgot to grab my passport. Yes, I'm a dumbass and haven't upgraded to a real ID yet, but I'm normally really on top of these things and have no issues just using my passport. I forgot to grab it because I spent all weekend doing chores in prep for 3 weeks on the road and just threw together my pack for today and out the door. My backpack goes with me everywhere and has 95% of what I use on a daily basis. So for flights, I take out any sharp objects and pack a separate bag just for clothes, and I'm set. So I looked and I could book an Uber back up to my apartment, grab my passport, Uber this time instead of the rail to the airport. By then, traffic had gotten worse, but it's still quicker to drive and still make it in time for my flight. I have 2 students traveling with me, and the only thing I could think of is I didn't want to ruin their days by missing my flight. So I booked it without even looking at the price. I get back to my apartment, beg the Uber driver to wait up to 10 minutes instead of the usual 5, and jet upstairs. Opened my safe and my heart sank. My passport wasn't in its usual spot. I check my lockbox, no dice. I check every place it could feasibly be, and then it finally dawned on me. I hadn't taken it out of my backpack since my last trip back in March. I had my passport with me the entire time by sheer accident. If I had actually forgotten it, at least I'd have been my own hero by leaving early enough to cover such a faux pas. But if I'd taken 5 seconds to check, I'd have realized I was fine and saved myself the unnecessary trip back to my apartment and the $220 it cost to Uber. To make matters worse, one of my students mentioned she had actually forgotten her passport just a few weeks prior for another trip, and the TSA is allowing a grace period since the real ID change in May. I could have tried with just my driver's license anyway. It also occurred to me I've just been walking around with my passport every day for 3 months. The good news, made it back to the airport through TSA and got to the gate with plenty of time. The bad news, I unnecessarily gave myself a minor cardiac event and wasted $220 on a completely unnecessary Uber because I remembered I hadn't grabbed my passport this morning only when I had already gotten to the airport, but forgot that I had never taken it out of my backpack since my last flight anyways. I got all the way to the airport before I realized I forgot to grab an ID acceptable for flying, did a whirlwind trip back to my apartment to grab it, only then realizing I had actually had it with me the entire time on accident.